Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about REST API, how to develop a client by using web client concept, what is synchronous client and what is asynchronous client that we have implemented in the last session. From today, we are going to start another module, which is very important in our course, microservices, right? So we are going to learn microservices concept from today onwards. Without keeping microservices in the resume, you will be not getting any calls, right? That much important topic it is. Before going to understand microservices, we need to talk about what is monolith architecture. What is monolithic architecture? What are the drawbacks of monolith architecture? Okay, so before this microservices concept came into picture, people used to develop the project by using monolith architecture. So what is this monolith architecture? What are the drawbacks available with the monolithic architecture? Monolithic architecture, nothing but developing everything in one application, develop all functionalities in single application. If you develop a project, if you develop a single project with all the functionalities, then the project is called as monolithic architecture based project. So for example, if you see the diagram, monolith architecture. Okay, look at this images. So monolithic architecture, nothing but if you take this diagram as an example, everything will be available. If you take one e-commerce application, in the e-commerce application, several functionalities will be available. Several functionalities will be available in e-commerce application. Now, like catalog service is available, order service is available, payment service is available, product is available, order is available, payment is available. If you take this application as an example, if you see, everything is available in the single project. So suppose if you go for Make My Trip, hotels booking, flight booking, train booking, cabs booking, different requirements are available. If you go for banking application, net banking will be available, personal loan, home loan, gold loan, debit card, credit card, lot of bank operations will be available. So if you take any application, multiple modules will be available in the application. So here, if you develop all those modules as one single application, then that application is called as monolithic application. Monolithic, nothing but single project will be available which contains all the functionalities. If you develop a application with a monolithic architecture, there are some drawbacks available. Earlier, 7 years back, 8 years back in the industry, people used to develop project like this. Everything, whatever the requirements we have, it can be 100 requirements, 200, 300 requirements. They will develop as one single project. Then they will deploy that project into one server. All the functionalities will be developed in one project. That is called monolithic architecture. Developing all the requirements in single application is called as monolithic architecture. So when we develop all functionalities in single application, application will be packaged as jar file or war file. So that means if it is a standalone application, jar file we will create which contains all the classes. If it is a web application, we will package that as a war file. That jar file or war file, app will be deployed. App will be deployed in single server. Okay, app will be deployed in one server. So that means multiple people accessing our application. If you take a bank, some people using credit card, some people using debit card, some people using Google Pay, Phone Pay, UPI, net banking, ATM transaction, personal loan, home loan, gold loan, educational loan, mortgages will be available. So different requirements are available in one project. That one project we packaged as one jar file or war file. We deployed that jar or war in one server. Then what is the problem? The first problem here is single point of failure. When you develop your project as a monolithic architecture, the first problem we are going to face is single point of failure. What is the meaning of single point of failure? Single point of failure means if there is any problem in one module, then the entire application is going to be down. So if there is a small problem, then the whole project is going to be down. That is called single point of failure. And second problem we have with the monolithic architecture, that is redeploy entire application. Redeploy entire application. I made some change. I have done some change in payment module. I made some changes to the payment module. If I make a small change in one module, then we need to recompile the entire project, repackage the entire project, redeploy the entire project. So if you make a minor change in one module also, then the whole application we need to redeploy. The whole application we need to redeploy. That is another problem we are having in the monolithic architecture. And the second one is maintenance of the application. As so many functionalities available in one application, managing that functionalities will become very, very, very difficult. And fourth problem, that is load balancing, burden on the server. Okay, some people using flight booking, some people using cabs, trains, hotels, like that. They are trying to book different tickets, but at the end all those requests will go to single server because all functionalities available in the single application. So now if 1000 requests comes to one server, no problem. If 1 crore request comes at a time, then burden will be increased on the server. There is a chance that server can crash. Server will be overloaded. So many users are accessing our application. All those requests are going to single server. Burden will be increased on the server. When burden is increased on the server, what will happen? If a burden increased on the server, then what will happen? Server will be crashed. Our response will be slow. Server will be crashed. Application will be down. So these are the challenges industry faced long back. Okay. So earlier, every company used to develop the project by using this monolithic architecture only. So what is the meaning of monolithic architecture? Developing all the functionalities in the single application is called as monolithic architecture. When you develop one single application, will be packaged as one jar file or one war file. So that is heavyweight jar file. Everything is available in the single jar file or war file, packaged as a fat jar, or people will call it as a fat war file. That means it is heavyweight packaged file. Everything is available in the single application. That a single application is packaged as a fat jar file or fat war file. Now that jar or war will be deployed in single server. So if you deploy our application in the single server, then we are going to face these drawbacks, guys. We are going to face these drawbacks. Could you please tell me what are the drawbacks available with the monolithic architecture? What is the first drawback? The first drawback with this one is single point of failure. So what is the meaning of single point of failure? If there is a small problem in the application, then entire project is going to be down. So if server is crashed, the whole application will be down. So business will be affected. Then what is the second problem with this one? Redeploy entire application. What is the meaning of redeploying the entire application? I am having 20 modules in my project. In one module, I made a small change to the method. Then the entire project we need to compile, entire project we need to package, we need to redeploy entire application. As everything is available at one place, maintenance of the application will become difficult. Then what is the fourth problem? Burden on the server. Why burden will be increased on the server? Everybody using the application running in one server, all the requests will go to one server, then it will increase burden on the server. Able to follow me? So these are the challenges available with the monolithic architecture. To overcome the drawbacks of monolithic architecture, people are using microservices architecture. To overcome the problems of monolithic architecture in the industry, people are using microservices architecture. First of all, remember that microservices is not a separated technology. Java is one technology, .NET is one technology, Python is one technology, right? But microservices is not a technology. Microservice is not a technology. And the second thing, microservices is not a framework like a Spring Boot like that. It's not a framework also. Microservices is not a technology. Microservices is not a framework. Microservices is not an API also. Microservices is not an API also. We have JDBC API, servlets API, okay, JSP API, like that. There are Jackson API. There are several APIs available to develop Java based applications. But microservices is not an API. Microservices is not a technology. Microservices is not a framework. Then what is this microservices? Microservices is a architectural design pattern. What is microservices, guys? It is an architectural design pattern. That means microservices will tell you how to develop application with loosely coupling. Microservices will tell you how to develop an application with a loosely coupling. It is not a framework. It is not technology. It is not API. Then what is microservice? Microservices is an architectural design pattern. Microservices architecture is used to develop application with loosely coupling. Earlier, what happened? Everything we developed in the single project. If you develop everything in the single project, maintenance will become difficult, burden will be increased on the server, single point of failure, redeploying the entire application. There are some challenges available. To overcome those challenges, people are going to follow microservices design pattern. This microservices design pattern not only for Java, not only for Java people, not only for Java projects. This design pattern is universal. Anybody can use this design pattern to develop their application. In the .NET also, microservices will be available. In the Java, microservices available. In Python, microservices. In Node.js, microservices. In PHP, microservices. So microservices, nothing but it is a design pattern. It is used to develop our application with a loosely coupling. Microservices is an architectural pattern. Microservices design pattern is universal. What is the meaning of universal? Anybody can use that. It is not specific to only Java language. Any technology project, any technology specific project also can be developed by using this microservices architecture. The main agenda of microservices, the main aim of microservices is to develop application with a loosely coupling. If you develop your application with a monolithic architecture, your application will be tightly coupled. Everything is available at one place. But if you develop everything at one place, burden will be increased on the server. So to reduce that burden on the server, to overcome the challenges of the monolithic architecture, we are going for microservices architecture. What is the main aim of microservices? Microservice main aim is to develop the application with a loosely coupling. Microservices project means microservices based application means collection of services. Okay, instead of developing everything as one single application, we are going to divide our functionalities into multiple projects. Let us see one diagram related to microservices architecture. Let us see one diagram related to microservices architecture. Yes, let me take this diagram. Yeah. So you see here monolithic architecture is available. Here microservices architecture is available. When you go for monolithic architecture, everything is available in one single application. Okay. So that is monolith. But when it comes to microservices architecture, I have 6 requirements. Okay. Instead of developing all the 6 requirements in one single application, I'm going to create 6 separate projects. I'm going to create 6 separate projects here. Every project is a one microservice. Now, I have 6 requirements. Instead of developing all the 6 requirements in one single application, I will develop 6 requirements into 6 separate applications. So these 6 services are called as microservices. So this microservice is responsible for flight tickets booking. Flight tickets booking functionality will be available in one microservice. That is a separate project that is going to run in the separate server. Okay. This project is related to train tickets booking. This is separate project. It will run in the separate server. This project is related to hotels booking. This is a separate project. It will run in the separate server. So like this, we are going to develop our applications in the real time. So if you develop multiple services in our application, then that application is called as microservices based application. Micro nothing but small. Micro nothing but small. So we are going to call it as small services. Small services will be available in one application. Flights service, hotel service, train service, cab service, payment service, admin service, report service, like that. Whatever the requirements we have, for those requirements, we will divide them into multiple modules. For every module, we are going to create one microservice which contains limited functionality. So this project is for trains booking. This project contains the logic only for trains booking, nothing else. So this project is for flights booking. This project will contain the logic only for flight ticket booking. Are you guys getting my point? So here, if you see monolith architecture, what is there? Everything is available in one application. If everything is available in one application, then it will become burden on the server. If everything is available in one application, then it will become burden on the server. To reduce that burden, we are going to develop our application like this. One application which contains multiple services. Every service is a separate project. Okay. So here, if you see, we can say that there are 6 projects available. Instead of calling them as 6 projects, we are going to call them as 6 services available. What is the meaning of a service? A REST API. So it contains only business logic. UI application is separate. Backend applications are separate. Backend applications are REST APIs. They will take JSON data as an input. They will give JSON data as a output. UI application will be there. Presentation logic will be available in the UI. That UI application will send a request to backend microservice. Microservice means a REST API. So we are developing REST API by using Java. If you go for .NET, they will develop REST API by using .NET. If you go for Python, they will develop REST API by using Python. So multiple technologies are there. Every technology supports REST API development. So we are using REST controller to develop a REST API. They will have some other concept to develop the REST API. So multiple REST APIs are available. All these REST APIs are called as microservices. So how many REST APIs will be available in one application depends on the requirement. So in my project, we are having 150 microservices. I told that I'm working for a credit card project. We have 150 different types of requirements. For 150 requirements, we have 150 services in the backend. For all these backend services, one front-end application will be available. So if I develop 150 requirements in the single project, that will become monolith. If it is a monolith, maintenance will become difficult. So that's why we divided our functionality into multiple small services. Those small services are called as microservices. Are you guys able to follow me? What is monolithic architecture? What is microservices architecture? Come on. Monolith. What is the meaning of monolithic architecture? If you develop all functionalities in one single application, then it is called as monolithic architecture. What are the problems with the monolithic architecture? What are the problems with monolithic architecture? Single point of failure. What is the meaning of single point of failure? If there is a small problem, then the entire application is going to be down. Then another problem, redeployment. Redeployment means for a minor change, the entire project should be redeployed. Third problem, maintenance will become difficult because everything is available at one place. If you make a small change, other functionality will be affected. All the classes available in single project, if you change one method parameter, it will affect in some other functionality. That maintenance will become very difficult. What is the other problem? Burden on the server. Everything is available in one project. So all the requests will go to single application. Single server is responsible to manage that load. Sometimes server will be overloaded, burden will be increased, server will be crashed, application will be down. Okay. So to avoid that problem, people are migrating from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture. What is a microservice? Can I say it is a framework like a Spring and Spring Boot? No, microservice is not a framework. Microservice is not a separated technology, which is people has to learn. No, it's not a API like a JDBC or servlet. Then what is microservice? Microservice is an architectural design pattern. Microservice is an architectural design pattern. What is the meaning of that? It will tell you how to develop your application with loosely coupling. You have 10 requirements. Don't develop all 10 requirements in single project. You divide them into multiple services. So what is the benefit if we divide them into multiple services? Easy maintenance, limited functionality will be available, multiple servers will be available to run our functionality. So instead of combining 6 requirements into single project, 6 different services we are going to develop. One service is responsible for flights booking. One service responsible for train tickets booking. One service responsible for hotels booking. One service responsible for administration in the project. One service responsible for payment related functionality. One service is responsible for reports generation in the project. So all the functionalities will be distributed. So we are going to develop multiple services. Collection of REST APIs will be available. So now here you can develop 10 REST APIs, 20 REST APIs, 100 REST APIs, 200 REST APIs, depends on your requirement. It depends on your requirement how many REST APIs we are going to develop in one application. Now, if you see, Make My Trip is one application, but Is it only one project in the background? No. Collection of APIs available. One UI project is available. Several APIs available in the background. These APIs are called microservices. Here, every microservice is independent. The main advantage with the microservice is every microservice is independent. So you can compile this project, you can deploy this project in a server. Again, this project you can compile, you can deploy, you can access. So microservices nothing but independently deployable and executable services. Independently deployable and executable services. Let me write that point here. Microservice nothing but microservices means independently deployable and executable. What is the meaning of that? Do I need to wait for all the services to be completed to execute my microservice? No. So if I complete my functionality in my microservice, I can compile that project, I can deploy that project, I can access that project also, because this microservice is independent. This microservice is independent. This microservice is independent. Microservices nothing but independently deployable and executable. We can also call them loosely coupled APIs. They are called loosely coupled REST APIs. So every microservice is one REST API which will take JSON data as input, execute the business logic, provide the JSON data as a output. So what is the benefit we are going to get with the microservices? Okay. So with microservices, advantages available as well as disadvantages also available. First, let's talk about the advantages. So the first advantage with microservice is loosely coupled. The first advantage with the microservice is loosely coupling. So that means one service is not dependent on the another service. Every service is independently deployable, independently executable. Are you able to follow this? Now, microservices are loosely coupled. Then, second benefit with the microservices, easy maintenance. Second advantage with microservice, easy maintenance. When I am working on microservice, do I need to think about the whole project functionality? Suppose, for example, in my company, I am allocated to credit card management. Do I need to think about how the loans are happening in my company? Do I need to understand that? Do I need to work on that? It's not required. It's not my job. My job is only credit card management. I will understand, I will work on only that credit card functionality. For example, if I get the job in Make My Trip, I'm part of train tickets booking. When I'm working on train tickets booking, will I bother about how the cabs booking is happening in the project? Not required. Okay. So I'm limited to particular functionality. I'm limited to particular services in the project. Okay. The maintenance of the project will become easy and the functionalities are loosely coupled. And then third benefit is load will be distributed. Okay. All the requests will go to single server. Cabs booking, flights booking, trains booking, hotels booking. Different people are doing different tickets booking in the Make My Trip. All user requests will go to single server. User requests will be distributed to multiple servers. Come on, guys. All the requests will go to single server, or the requests will be distributed to multiple servers. The request will be distributed to multiple servers. Are you able to follow this? Load will be distributed. And another beautiful advantage is technology independency. Here, I want to develop 6 microservices. Every microservice is independent. Every microservice is loosely coupled. Is there any rule that all the services I should develop by using only Java? Is there any rule that I need to develop all the services by using Java? Not required, because every service is a separate project. It is independent. It will run in separate server. This project I will develop by using Java. This project I will develop by using Python. This project I will develop by using .NET. This project I will develop by using Node.js. Python project will run in Python server. Java project will run in Tomcat server. .NET project will run in IIS server. So every project will run in a separate server. So that projects are REST APIs. REST APIs are interoperable. From the UI, I can access Java application. I can access Python. I can access .NET. I can access Node.js also. In the real time also, same concept is happening. In a company, so the project which is having microservices, all the microservices, all the REST APIs, they may not develop by using single technology because the resources will not be available. Recruiting 200 Java people at a time may not be possible. In my company, 100 Java developers available, 200 Python developers available, or 50 .NET developers available. So those people don't have any project now. Can I use them in our project also now? Yes, I am having 100 Java people, 50 Python, 50 .NET people available. At this moment, .NET project is not there in the company. Python project is not there in the company. We got a Java project. We got a project to develop with microservices. So can I use those 100 people also in our project development? Yes, few microservices I will assign to them. They will develop by using .NET. They will develop by using Python. That technology independency is possible if you go for microservices architecture. But can I use a Java, Python both here? Is it possible? In the monolithic architecture, it is not possible. In the monolith architecture, you should be strict to one technology. If you choose Java, till end of the project, you should go with only Java. You can't choose other technology in the middle of the project. But in the microservices, few services I develop with Java, few services I will develop with the .NET. That flexibility is available. Because in microservices, every functionality is a separate service. It is independently deployable, independently executable, independently accessible. So that is another beauty available with the microservices. So microservices is an architectural design pattern. That design pattern is universal. Any company, any technology project can use this microservices design pattern. The main aim of microservices is to develop application with a loosely coupling. The main aim of microservices to develop our application with loosely coupling. Microservices based project means collection of independent services will be available. There is no rule that you need to develop all these services by using single technology. You can develop these services according to your flexibility. Okay. And another biggest doubt that we are going to get in the microservices. Sir, when you go for monolithic architecture, entire application will be there as a single project. All the requirements will be available as one project. Our project will communicate with one database. So for one application, one database will be available. But when it comes to microservices, it depends on the requirement. Every microservice, nothing but every REST API can have its own database. Every REST API can have its own database, or multiple REST APIs can connect with one database, or one REST API can connect with two databases also. It all depends on your requirement. In my project also, we are using Oracle and MySQL. For few REST APIs, dedicated database is available. One REST API will use its own database. In some REST APIs, we are connecting with two different databases. Depends on the requirement. So my REST API connecting with Oracle as well as MySQL. There are few REST APIs. Those REST APIs will connect with single database only. How many databases we will use in the microservices architecture? It's totally depends on the project requirement. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. So we don't know. It depends on the project requirement, what database we need to use, how many databases we need to use in our microservices architecture. If you see in the diagram, for 4 microservices, they have given 4 different databases. For 2 microservices, they have not given the database. So it's totally depends on the requirement. And if you see here diagram, logically they're representing one microservice is communicating with the another microservice. That is called inter-service communication. What is the meaning of that? Inter-service communication. So that means in my application, there are 6 microservices available. First microservice having a requirement to communicate with the third microservice. And my fourth microservice is communicating with the 6th microservice. So that is called inter-service communication. We develop 6 services. One service is communicating with another service due to some business requirement. Due to some business requirement, one microservice is communicating with the another microservice. That is called inter-service communication. For this inter-service communication, we will use a FIAN client. One project is going to communicate with another project. In the REST API, what we have done? We communicated with the third-party project. What is the meaning of third-party project? Developed by other companies. But here, we are only developing all the 6 services. One service is communicating with another service within the same application. That is called inter-service communication. So this is repeatedly asked question in the interviews. What is inter-service communication? So if one microservice is communicating with another microservice within the same application, then that is called inter-service communication. How do we achieve that inter-service communication? By using FIAN client, we are going to achieve inter-service communication. Are you getting my point? So previously we discussed REST template and web client. Why we need to go for REST template web client? For third-party communication. What is the meaning of third-party communication? Our project will communicate with another project developed by some other company. What is inter-service communication? Our microservice will communicate with another microservice within the same application. Microservice 1 communicating with service 3, service 4 communicating with service 6. So that is intercommunication. For that we will go for FIAN client. Got it? So what are the advantages available with the microservices here, guys? First of all, what is microservice? Microservice means independently deployable and executable services. Microservices means independently deployable and executable services. It is architectural design pattern. So people are using microservices nothing but they are developing REST APIs in the application. If anybody say that I am working on microservices project, what is the meaning of that? They are developing REST APIs. Do you know how to develop the REST APIs? That means you know whenever microservices started, today or 1 month back? 1 month back only microservices started, because microservices nothing but developing REST APIs only. Provider will be available, consumer will be available. Provider means it is a REST API which will give the services to other application. Consumer means which will access services from the other application. So if you see this diagram, microservice 1, it is a provider or it is a consumer? It is both. For UI, it is a provider. For microservice 3, it is a consumer. So that means one microservice, nothing but one REST API, it is acting as a provider as well as it is acting as a consumer. Are you able to follow this? So 1 month back, I kept a title as a REST API. REST APIs, why we are learning REST APIs? To develop application with a microservices architecture. What is microservices? It is a design pattern. What this design pattern is telling? Boss, when you are developing an application, don't develop it as a single project. Whatever the requirements you have, you divide them into multiple APIs. You develop small services for your requirements so that your functionalities will be loosely coupled. Your application will be loosely coupled. Maintenance of the project will become easy. You can choose different technologies to develop your application. You can execute each REST API in a separate server. When 1 lakh people are accessing your application, 1 lakh users will not go for flights booking. 1 lakh people accessing Make My Trip. some people trains, some people flights, some people hotels, some people cabs. So all these 1 lakh user requests will go to different services. Every service will execute in the different server. Load also will be distributed. Your application will be up and running. Application will be always up and running. And for example, today we got a problem with this one microservice. It is down. Some crash happened. The CPU got corrupted, or that system does not have proper resources to serve the request. Server is down for one microservice. Can I say it is a single point of failure? No. Why? Why it is not a single point of failure? Only one microservice is failed. That means one service is failed. Remaining services are up and running. Remaining services are up and run. That means your project will have high availability when you go for microservices. Suppose if it is a monolith, if a server is crashed, everything is collapsed. Application is not accessible. But when you go for microservices architecture, high availability will be available. If there is a problem in one service, this is trains booking. Okay, in Make My Trip today, trains booking is not working. People still can book hotels, they can book the flights, they can book the cabs also. The remaining services are up and running because it is a separate project running in the separate server. So high availability will be available for our application. When you go for microservices, it is having high availability. Microservice will have high availability. Good. Please read these points, guys. What is microservice? Come on. Microservice is not a technology. Microservice is not a framework. Microservice is not an API. Then what is microservice? Microservice is nothing but architectural design pattern. This design pattern is universal, not only for Java. Any technology can use microservice design pattern. What is the main aim of microservices? The main aim of microservices is to develop application with loosely coupling. Microservice based application means collection of REST APIs. Microservices based application means collection of REST APIs. Microservices nothing but independently deployable and executable services. Good. What are the benefits with the microservices, guys? First advantage with the microservices, that is microservices are loosely coupled. 6 services available. Those are 6 different projects will run in the 6 different servers. So application is loosely coupled. What is the second advantage? Every service will have limited functionality. So the maintenance of the project will become easy. Then third one, what is the meaning of load will be distributed? All the functionality not available in the single server, load will be distributed to multiple servers because functionalities are available in multiple services. Then fourth advantage, technology independency. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of technology independency? No need to develop all the services by using single technology because they are independently deployable, independently executable. Python REST API, .NET REST API, Java REST API. So I have requirement of 3 REST APIs. 3 REST APIs I can develop by using 3 different technologies. My UI can access all these 3 REST APIs. What is the fifth advantage? With microservices, high availability will be available. High availability means if any one service is a failure, then the remaining services will not be affected. They will be up and running. That means no single point of failure. So there is no single point of failure when you go for microservices architecture. Next one. What are the challenges with them? It's not disadvantage, guys. When you go for microservices, I don't say them as drawbacks, but I will say them as challenges. If you are developing a project by using microservices architecture, there are some challenges available. The first challenge with the microservice is bounded context. The first challenge that we are going to face with microservice is bounded context. Bounded context nothing but deciding how many REST APIs we need to develop in the project. Okay, I got one e-commerce application. In the e-commerce application, there are 100 requirements available. Do I need to develop 100 REST APIs for 100 requirements, or do I need to develop 50 REST APIs for 100 requirements? Do I need to develop 20 REST APIs for 100 requirements? Deciding that boundary of the microservice is difficult. That is a challenging task for the people in the company. Architects are going to take this decision, how many microservices should be there in this application. Are you guys getting my point? Okay, so make my trip nothing but it's not about only 4 or 6 microservices. N number of functionalities will be available in the background. For us, we are seeing hotels, flights, trains, cabs. That's it. Do you think that only 5 microservices will be available in the make my trip? In the background, hell lot of functionality will be available. So for every requirement, are we going to develop a separate REST API, or are we going to combine 2-3 requirements in one REST API? So taking that decision is difficult. That is a challenging task for the people in the company. Who will take that decision? As a developer, are we going to take the decision? No. Project architect, the person who is working as a architect for the project, that person will decide how many services we need to create in our application. So deciding that boundary, this microservice should contain this functionality only. First microservice should contain this functionality. Second microservice should contain this functionality. Third microservice should contain this functionality. Deciding that deciding factor is a challenging task in the microservices. If it is a monolith, no need to decide anything. Whatever the requirement comes, develop in the single project. But in the microservices, independently deployable, executable services. Which functionality should be part of which microservice? So that is called bounded context. Are you getting my point? That is deciding number of REST APIs. What is the meaning of bounded context, guys? Deciding number of REST APIs to develop in our application. That is one of the challenging tasks for the developers as well as for the project management team. So deciding the number of microservices we need to develop in our application. Then second problem in the microservices, that is duplicate configuration. The second challenge in the microservice is duplicate configuration. What is the meaning of that? For example, this microservice want to communicate with the database. Here data source configuration is required. Here also data source configuration is required. Here also data source configuration required. Here also data source configuration required. How many places we are configuring the data source? 4 places. If you go for monolith, one project, one configuration will be available. Here, repeated configuration will be available. For example, I want to send email from my REST APIs. Okay, SMTP, how many places I need to configure? 4 places I need. That is duplicate. That is duplicate. Some configurations are going to be repeated in every microservice. Duplicate configurations will be available because everything is a separate project, will run in the separate server. So here, if you go for monolith, SMTP configuration, security configuration, Kafka configuration, Redis configuration, data source configuration is a one-time job in the project. My project want to communicate with the Kafka. Kafka configuration I will do at one place. That's sufficient for the entire application. But here, this microservice want to communicate with Kafka. this microservice also wants to communicate with Kafka. Then at two places, I need to do the same configuration. So that is called duplicate configuration, challenging task in the microservices architecture, which is not there in the monolithic architecture. These are the challenges, but we have to accept and we need to proceed further. Then third problem with the microservices architecture is visibility. What is the third challenging task with microservices? Visibility. Visibility means as a developer, you will not get the complete picture of the project. Okay. So as I told you, there are multiple microservices available. So your project is having 20 microservices. In the last 1 year, you got the chance to work with only 3 microservices. What about remaining microservices? You don't know. You don't know because other team members worked on those microservices. You are working on few microservices. They are working on few other microservices. I am working on few other microservices. In my project, I told you 150 services available. I know 70 to 80 services functionality. The remaining services, I don't know because I did not get the chance to work with them. I did not get that code base. I don't have the chance to see what is there in that microservice. So that is abstraction in the companies. So in the company, management will not give the chance for you to work on everything in the project. That is because of some security reasons also. If you know everything in the project, then what will happen? You will go to some other company. You will tell this business secrets to the other company. Are you able to follow me? Simple example. Now you see in the politics, in the AP especially, what is happening? Jumping Japan. From that party, people are coming to this party, scolding them. From this party, they are going there and scolding these people because these people worked with that party leader from last 5 years. They know what are the positives and what are the negatives. Suddenly, they jumped from one party to another party. Then what they will do? They will tell all the negatives of that party. So same scenario. I'm working in my company. From last 4 years. If I work with every service in my project, okay, I know each and everything. Assume that if I get the chance to know each and everything in my project, then this year I did not get the hike what I have expected, or else I asked for 1 week leave. My manager did not give the leave for me. Then I will go to other company. After going to that company, they will ask me, what is your previous company? What is your previous project? Okay, I worked on the banking company. Can you tell me your banking application architecture? Can you tell me what are the services are available? Then already I'm fed up with my manager, with my company. I will tell all this information to new company. Then these people business will be affected. So that is the reason in the companies, you will not get the chance to work with the entire application. You will not get the chance to work with the entire application. So that visibility problem will be available when you go for microservices architecture. You will get the chance to work with only few services. And nowadays, especially, I will tell scenario in my project. We are developing microservices application. Okay. I told you 150 services available, 70 to 80 service I know. But the abstraction is who is going to access my service, which UI application will access my service, from where request will come to my service, to whom I am giving the response, that I also don't know. That is the abstraction. Few microservices we are developing in India. Few microservices they are developing in US. We don't know where is the UI for our application. They will not tell that information also. From where the request is coming, to whom we are giving the response, that also we don't know. So we are pure REST API developer. They will tell you, boss, you will get a request like this. Even my manager also don't know. My manager also don't know from where we are getting the request, to whom we are giving the response. So they will tell that this is the requirement. You need to develop this REST API. You will get a request like this in the JSON format. You need to do this operation. You need to give the response in the JSON. To whom we are giving, company will not tell you. Why company will not tell you? If they tell that information, what will happen? I will dig into each and everything in the project. I will understand complete project architecture. So that is security concern for the management. Company people will not allow you to work with everything in the project. Especially in the MNC companies, this problem will be available. In the MNC company, for everything, dedicated team will be available. So database team will be there. You don't know where is your database team. Anything you want, you need to raise a request in the service now. Somewhere, somebody will process your request, you will get the response. But where they are sitting, what they are doing, that is not your responsibility. Okay, now UI team. Somebody will develop UI for our application. We are developing backend application. Okay, where is the Kafka configuration? Kafka team will take care of that. Who is going to deploy that application? DevOps team will do that. Where is that DevOps team? We don't know. So we are going to work with cloud infrastructure. Who is creating cloud infrastructure? How they are creating cloud infrastructure? They will not tell you. So that is abstraction people will maintain in the companies, especially in the MNC company. If you are sitting idle also, that is not a problem for the company. 2-3 months, if you don't have work also, company will pay the salary for you, but they will not give the chance to work with everything in the project. So if they give chance to work with everything in the project, so there is no guarantee that you will die in the same company. You will switch to another company after 1 year or after 2 years. So if you are not satisfied with your company, present company, you will tell these business secrets, this client information to new company. This company will lose the business. So that's the reason you will be having limited access in the MNC companies. Okay. But if you work with the startup, they will not have this much manpower. They will not have this many people. They will not have that much budget. So they will use you as a all-rounder. You need to work with everything in the project. So in the startup company, more scope will be available to learn the technology. In the MNC company, less scope will be available to learn the technology. Are you getting my point? Good. So if you go for startup, when you are working as a Java developer, for example, this year, Java project is not available. What they will do? Work on the Python project, work on the testing, work on the database, work on the DevOps. They will use you like anything. So you will become all-rounder in the startup company. If you go for MNC, 1 year, 2 years also, if you don't have a project, they will keep on the bench. So for 1 year, if you don't have a project also, they will keep you on the bench. So in the MNC, learning scope will be less. In the startup company, learning scope will be available. That's why first 3 to 4 years, if you work in the startup company, you will become very, very strong in the technology. Once you became strong in the technology, then you can go for MNC to relax. In the MNC, that much pressure will not be available. So it's cool because less work and they will not give the chance to work with everything in the project. You will be limited to some work only, some functionality only. So I'm telling you my scenario in the project. They will not give the chance for me to work with everything in the project. They will tell you, we got the requirement for this microservice. This is how you will get the request. This is what you need to give. That's it. Who will send the request? Who will take the response? That is abstraction for us. Getting my point? If I ask my manager, what he will do? He will get the requirement from his manager. He also don't know who is going to access. Some other person will give the requirement to my manager. My manager will give the requirement to me as a lead. I will give the requirement to my team member. So my team member will ask me, Ashok, who is our client for this REST API? I don't know. Then I will ask my manager. What my manager will tell, I also don't know. He will get from someone else. So that means multiple channels will be available, multiple layers will be available, that abstraction will be there in the company. So that is visibility problem with microservices architecture. If it is a monolith, do we have this problem? Why? Everything available at one place. Git clone URL. Everything will come into our workspace. We can run the project in our local system. But in the microservice, every service is a separate project. First of all, for all the microservices, Git repository access also they will not give you. In which microservice you are working, only that repository access you will have. I don't have access for 150 Git repositories available in the project, because some services I did not work on them. My other teams in the company, they are working on those services. So team wise, they will assign the microservices. My team got the chance to work with 70 services in the last 4 years. The remaining teams available, they worked on the remaining services. We don't know what they have done. They don't know what we have done, but all are belongs to single application. So that abstraction will be there in the microservices. That is called visibility. You may not get the complete picture of your application when you are working with the microservices architecture. In the real time, people, anybody facing this issue? Visibility issue? Some working people available in this batch? Yes? That's true. Anybody who is working, facing this visibility problem? Yeah, see the answer. Yes, yes, yes. That means they are working on microservices projects. So they don't get the chance to work with all the microservices. So they don't know what is there in the entire application. What is entire application? They don't know. Visibility problem will be available with the microservices architecture. Yes. So can you see what are the challenges with the microservices, guys? What is the challenge with the microservices? First challenge with the microservice is bounded context. What is the meaning of a bounded context? Deciding number of REST APIs to develop in our application is called as bounded context. What is the second one? Duplicate configuration. What is the meaning of duplicate configuration? What is the meaning of duplicate configuration? Kafka, Redis, security, database, SMTP, some third-party connections that we want to make, some tools that we want to use. We need to do that configuration in every microservice in the project. That will become duplicate configuration. Then third problem, visibility. Visibility means as a developer, we don't get the chance to work with all the services that are available in the application. Limited access will be available for you in the project. You may not get the complete. If you get the chance to work with everything, then you are lucky. But generally, that is not possible in the MNC companies. Good. So we understood what is monolithic architecture. What are the drawbacks of the monolithic architecture? What is microservice, and what are the advantages with the microservices, and what are the challenges with the microservices? So in the tomorrow session, we are going to understand microservices architecture. Okay, how people will design this microservices architecture. And remember, for the microservices, guys, there is no fixed architecture because it is universal. People are customizing this microservices architecture as per their requirement. Okay, there is for Spring Web MVC, there is a standard architecture. Dispatcher servlet will be available, handler mapper, controller, view resolve. That is standard. If I use it, anybody use it, any institute, any trainer, any developer, that Spring MVC architecture will not change because that is standard architecture. But for the microservices, there is no standard architecture. When you go for microservices development, there is no standard architecture. Okay, so now there is no standard architecture. There is no standard architecture for microservices development. People are customizing microservices project architecture according to their requirement. There is no standard architecture for microservices development. People are customizing microservices project architecture according to their requirement. When we are going to develop microservices, we are going to use service registry, but it's not mandatory. In some projects, service registry will be available. In some projects, will not be available. Service registry. Then next one, admin server. Next one, zookeeper. Sorry, not zookeeper. Jipkin server. Jipkin server. Service registry will be available. Admin server will be available. Jipkin server will be available. Then API gateway will be API gateway or REST API services will be available. Services will be available. API gateway will be available. We are going to use API gateway. We are going to use FIAN client. We are going to use FIAN client, and we are going to use config server. Config server will be available. So these are the common concepts that people are going to use in the microservices development. Along with these things, people are going to use Kafka, people are going to use Redis, and people are going to use Docker. Okay, so these are standard topics that we need to learn in the microservices. If you want to say that I know microservices, if you want to say that I know microservices development, so you should know these concepts first. Then you will be called as a, already we know what we learned in the REST API. This part we learned. So we learned the services, guys. What is the meaning of services? Backend APIs. So whatever the APIs we are developing, REST APIs we are developing, those are called as services. In order to manage these services, we are going to use service registry. We are going to use admin server. We are going to use Jipkin server. We are going to develop REST APIs. API gateway will be available. Okay. Then FIAN client will be available. Config server will be available. Kafka will be available for event-driven architecture. Redis will be available for the cache implementation. Then Docker will be available for the containerization. Okay. So if you go for any microservices development, these concepts will be available. But here, out of 10, only this is mandatory. Remaining 9 are optional. Some companies, some projects will use all these things. Some companies will not use all these things. Some project may use a Docker, may not use Docker. Some project will use a Kafka, may not use Kafka. Same thing for service registry, admin server, Jipkin server, FIAN client. So that is the reason we are saying that there is no standard architecture for microservices. But most of the people are going to follow these concepts for the microservices development. But is there any guarantee that in the industry, every Spring Boot project will follow these components, will use these components? There is no rule. It's a choice. It's a choice. Some projects will use them. Some projects will not use them. Able to follow this? So can you read the topics now? What are these topics? Service registry, admin server, Jipkin server, services, API gateway, FIAN client, config server, Apache Kafka, Redis, cache, then Docker. Here, service registry, admin server, Jipkin server, API gateway, FIAN client, all these concepts are related to Spring Cloud. We are going to develop our microservices by using Spring Cloud concept. From now onwards, we are going to add Spring Cloud dependencies in the project. As of now, we added mail starter, JPA starter, okay, web starter, Webflux starter, REST repository starters and all. From now onwards, we are going to add one more dependency, which is called Spring Cloud dependency. That is Spring Cloud dependency providing service registry, okay, this Jipkin server, API gateway, FIAN client, all these components are coming from Spring Cloud. So we are going to learn microservices development by using Spring Cloud libraries. Spring Cloud libraries are available. By using those cloud libraries, we are going to develop our microservices application. Are you guys able to understand? Okay. So in order to complete these topics, we are going to take 2 to 3 weeks of time. So if you complete these things, then we can say microservices completed. Along with this, security is pending. Spring security also we need to cover. Once these microservices are completed, then we will understand how to work with Spring security in our project. Spring security, that is just 2 days of time, not more than that. So hardly 2 to 3 weeks of time it is going to take to complete our Spring Boot microservices batch. Okay. The next 3 days classes are available. Friday, Saturday, Sunday also classes are available. So I'm planning to take some long sessions also so that we can complete up to this part in the next three days of time. By Sunday, we are going to complete service registry, admin server, Jipkin server, APIs, API gateway, and FIAN client we are going to learn. So tomorrow we will be having some long session. Okay, 7 to 10 like that. I'm going to take the class for the next because we wasted a lot of time due to holidays and all. So I want to utilize that time over these 3 days of this weekend. Okay, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 hours sessions will be available for us. I will give some break also. It's better before coming to the class, complete your breakfast in the hostel. Okay, so tomorrow 7 to 10 class will be available in the offline. 7:30, sorry, 7:30 to 10:30, 7:30 to 10, something like that. Okay, good. So today it's completely theoretical session, guys. What is monolithic? What is microservice? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? So tomorrow we are going to understand microservices architecture and we will start some practicals on this microservices architecture. Good. Any questions, anyone? Yeah, tomorrow class timing is regular 7:30. So it may be go up to 10 o'clock. 9:30 or 10 o'clock, we'll take the session tomorrow. Okay, cool. Any questions, anyone? Online students, any questions, anybody? When you will use IntelliJ? Online also same timing for online. Association mapping, I already told you. That's pending, I will cover that. What is SMTP? To send emails by using Spring Boot. Circuit breaker, saga patterns, yes. Design patterns will come. I'm not saying that only with this syllabus will be completed. So this is related to microservices. Okay, let me upload the notes. So that's what I told you. Another 3 weeks it is going to take to complete, guys. It's new chapter now. JRTP people, did you start the project implementation? Today you have to sit here and you need to complete. Yesterday I completed service. Today you need to complete service plus REST controller. Within 1 hour I completed service. You have 8 hours of time. Service plus controllers also you need to complete before coming to today's class. You have another 1 month of time to start attending the interviews. This 1 month is very important for you because our project and boot microservice will be completed. So you need to start giving the interviews for that. So a lot of practice is required. Revision also you need to start. Once major project architecture is completed, I will tell you resume preparation, how to prepare the resume, how to keep the project and all, how to explain the project, self-introduction, roles and responsibilities. Once that interview preparation completed, parallelly you need to attend the interviews and project development we have to do. So 1 month before course completion, you need to start attending the interviews so that you will get some clarity what they are expecting in the companies. Okay, cool. Can we use FIAN client for third party? Yes, FIAN client we can use. FIAN client you can use for inter-service communication as well as for third-party communication. So for here, for inter-service communication, either you can use a web client also, you can use FIAN client also. Using FIAN client, you can communicate with third-party API also. Got it? Yeah. Some other question? Distributed applications and microservices. Microservices are called distributed applications only. Naresh, yes, you are right. Angular is the front end for our application. Sasikumar, can we use PN client for third-party communication? Yes, we can do that. When we develop other microservices, another technology, is it possible to achieve inter-service communication? Yes. So two microservices, nothing but one is a Java microservice, .NET microservice. You can communicate by using web client or REST template. Okay. So inter-service communication also possible when they are developed with different technologies, because every microservice is REST API. One REST API can easily communicate with another REST API. So technology does not matter because REST APIs are interoperable. API gateway is payment gateway. No, API gateway is different. Payment gateway is different. We will understand that tomorrow. What is API gateway? Which one is widely used? PN client, web client is widely used. REST template is outdated. MVC design pattern we are going to follow. Correct, Sam? MVC pattern we are going to follow to develop these services. Like controller service model will be available. Okay. What is a discovery server? Service registry is called discovery server. Give me 1 day time. Tomorrow you will be understanding all these details. What is discovery server? What is service registry? What is API gateway? I have not explained. I have just given the titles. What I am going to explain tomorrow. What is edge service? We'll talk about that. What is alternate for Spring Cloud? So cloud concepts, there is no alternate. PN client can be used for synchronous communication, not for asynchronous. For asynchronous, you need to go for web client. What is alternate for Spring Cloud? There is no alternate. Yes, sir. Our channel is back. All the videos are available. Did you check it? Yes, all the videos are available. I think so. I need to check it. Today I will do that check. Yes, I think we got all the videos. Guys, see here. I have given videos. You check it. How to explain about yourself in the interview. As a Java developer, how to give self-introduction in the interview, and how to explain your roles and responsibilities in the interview as a developer. These two interview preparation guide is available. Here, first video, Java developer roles and responsibilities. Second video, DevOps roles and responsibilities. Third video, self-introduction. When you attend any interview, that is the first question they are going to ask you. Explain about yourself. Explain your roles and responsibilities in the project. If you go through these two videos, you will understand answer for those questions. Okay, fine. Good. Thank you guys. With this, I'm stopping for today. We are going to continue in the tomorrow session. Tomorrow, we are going to understand microservices architecture and we'll start developing the project using microservices.